And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Top Level Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harris Arena, alongside me, co-host Dan Kiley. No Kobe today. Kobe is out of town for the holiday week. I almost said weekend. I guess it's what? I guess you could say it's a holiday weekend, although the weekend's going to start 2 days early than it usually would. Back here with another edition of the Top Level Talk. Dan, college football playoff rankings just dropped. Georgia just dropped its weekly Tuesday night, 8 o'clock or whenever the heck the full rankings are revealed tweet about something along the lines of they're keeping, they're just working, is what they posted exactly on the dot after the college football playoff rankings were revealed. Georgia's at number 4, no surprise in terms of who the 3 are above them: Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M. But after that, top 4 is pretty legit. Top 4 is not controversial at all. I would even say top 5, but 6 through I'd say 16, there's a lot of debate just all over the place you could have. I mean, what are your initial reactions to this?
I think my initial reactions is that they tell us all the time that it's a week-to-week thing, right? That the prior week has nothing to do with the current week, and they're supposed to be putting the best 12 teams in. They don't live up to their own standard, and it's the same thing everywhere. First of all, 1 through 4 is not changing at all. 1, 2, and 3 haven't moved at all, despite one team playing well, another team not playing well. I don't know, and maybe it's just lip service with those people, but I'm not 100% sold that 1, 2, and 3 is in the right order. But 1, 2, 3, 4, you're right. They haven't changed. It is what it is at that point. You get to 6 with Oregon. I think Oregon's a good football team. We've talked about it on here. They had one really important game against Indiana. They lost it. Otherwise, they play nobody. I think, was it you that posted their schedule earlier in the season, talking about this might be one of the most ridiculously light schedules in college football in recent memory. I agree with you in that regard, although I don't think either one of us is saying they're not a good football team. I think we agree there. They're a good football team.
Penn State being horrible just absolutely hurt them hard.
Correct, for sure. 7, Ole Miss, I don't think if you have a problem with Ole Miss being at 7, or at least in the top 7, I don't know the argument against them. They've played good football. The only game they lost was to Georgia. Granted, their defense didn't show up that day, but their offense did, and their offense looked electric. And if you were in the stadium for that game, it was great atmosphere. Ole Miss is a good football team. 8, Oklahoma. I'm not as well versed on Oklahoma as most people, maybe. Notre Dame. I think Harrison, I think what you're trying to get at is Notre Dame is the one that everybody's really up in arms about. So I know that you have opinions on that. So go ahead, and I'll pass the microphone to you, sir, and you tell me about Notre Dame being at 9.
See, I'm kind of the point of debate here and obviously Notre Dame, Miami, that's going to be the never-ending debate. And kind of what you touched on is my whole problem with this thing. It's a week-to-week deal until we get to the final week. And then they start applying their own rules. And sometimes they even change the rules. So are you telling me for 4 straight weeks, you're going to tell me Notre Dame is a better football team than Miami? And then come Selection Sunday, if both take care of their business, you're going to flip and say, well, Miami has the head-to-head. They're going above Notre Dame. What's the criteria here, Dan? Are we applying the head-to-head? Because if we are, then let's do that throughout this. Let's count it. Well, especially when they have similar criteria. But if we're not going to count it, then let's not flip-flop at the last minute.
Who's the woman on the show, the ESPN show? She was the one that was standing by the screen going through. What's her name? That's not Heather Dinich, is it? Or is it
the one, like the insider?
The one that was just on there tonight.
Yeah. I believe that was Heather Dinich. I saw her. I turned it off as she was going through the bracket.
So basically, what she said verbatim is the head-to-head doesn't matter because the committee feels that Notre Dame is a much better football team than Miami. Why are we playing games? I mean, and I like Notre Dame, so like, and I can't stand Miami, and their fans love to come in here, but to go on TV and say that the head to head doesn't matter blows my flipping mind. Like, why are we playing football games if it doesn't matter? I mean, I understand it was early in the season. I understand that Notre Dame's a much different team right now. I think Notre Dame would beat Miami on a neutral field, but to just basically say, or not basically, to actually say head to head doesn't matter anymore. That's wild. I don't, that part just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, I think if you have two teams with the same record, yeah, and then the even wilder part is she said right after that, more than likely Miami's going to be replaced by whoever wins the ACC championship game. So it's an irrelevant argument. Miami's not going to even be in the final 12. I don't know. I don't really know what to say at that point.
Like, I understand the context of, hey, it's week one, and they're both different football teams from week one. Miami has looked like a team that's on the descend. And I would you say Notre Dame looks like a team that's on the ascend? Like they're ascending right now? Like they have some impressive wins. Their win over USC is one to take note, or I believe they played USC just the other week. That's one to take note of. I get that. But like I'm with you kind of. It's like if the games don't matter, then why are they being played? Like if we're encouraging head-to-head matchups and playing challenging schedules, then whether it comes in week 1 or week 13, you have to count the game. Do you not?
No, and I think eyeball test is a big thing too, right? Like I understand that Syracuse is not currently what Syracuse was, um, which was a competent football team. And for Notre Dame to beat them 70-7, when my son came downstairs and said, "Dad, you're not going to believe what Notre Dame just did to Syracuse," and I was like, "Beat them?" And he's like, "Yeah, 70-7." I was like, "You mean what?" And he's like, "Bro, 70-7." And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, I mean, that's one of the things that stand out. But to go back to what you said just 2 seconds ago was it's a week one game and they look very different. Now, listen, that is a true statement because let's go back to week one. There's a team that's ranked right behind Notre Dame, Alabama. They played Florida State, who is an absolute trash can dumpster fire of a football team. And Alabama looked awful that night. However, they haven't looked like that team in any other game they've played all year long. I mean, is that fair to say? I mean,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
when they play Georgia. I mean, we always know that when they play Georgia, they transform into the 85 Bears with the LSU offense. I mean, it's just incredible. But even in their loss to Oklahoma, which has turned out to be like their bugaboo for whatever reason, but they still didn't look terrible. They didn't look bad. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It took
not
it
every
took
loss.
OU getting 3 takeaways to even win, you know?
What's that?
Like OU had 3 takeaways.
Mhm.
They were +3 in the turnover battle, and they only beat them by a touchdown or by one score,
Right.
you know?
My point is that like Alabama is one of those teams where, to your point, why are we playing games if we're going to throw them out? But then in the same breath, you almost want to throw that game out because Alabama hasn't looked like that in any other game. Alabama's looked pretty decent in every other game. And then, Georgia, all the way up at number 4, right? They have one loss. And, I saw people trying to make the argument that Georgia should not be ahead of Alabama. I'm like, what are we talking about? One team has one loss, one team has 2 losses. Like, well, the game should matter. It does matter when the records are
When they're
even,
neutral. Mhm.
but it's not even anymore. So, like, I don't know. I don't know why I get worked up about this. I say it every single time. This stuff works itself out. But, the Notre Dame
Most of the
Miami
time,
stuff,
it works itself out.
most of the time it does. And like the draw right now that Georgia has is pretty favorable. Like I know Texas Tech is a good football team, but out of those teams that you could play in the first round, they don't scare the hell out of me the way some of the other teams might.
I mean, yeah, I just pulled up the bracket, so we have it here. You play the winner of Tulane, Texas Tech. Texas Tech, like you said, has been a good football team. I don't know how well they particularly match up with Georgia. You love the Tulane matchup, neutral field, home field, whatever. And you're essentially at that point, you're playing in a national championship game in the semifinals, which to me, I mean, I think the 5-12 matchup with this current set, you probably like the matchup here. The only other favorable matchup, and maybe Dan, you disagree here, and I think the second most favorable would be to be in the 7-10 spot because I think of the four, Indiana's probably the weakest of the top four seeds. Now, granted, to win the 7-10 matchup, you're going to be playing a Ole Miss or Alabama. Not an easy game on the road, but to get the easier draw of the top four seeds, maybe it's a little bit better.
You're right. Like, you don't want to see Ohio State. I know that Ohio State is the best team in the country. You don't want to see them in the Final Four. You'd rather see them in the national championship game and then roll the dice. Texas A&M is a good football team. I think they're a beatable football team. I'm not going to say that they're a very good football team, but that's a winnable game. Listen, obviously the only two teams I don't want to play are Alabama for obvious reasons and Ohio State. I'd like to have one crack at them with everything on the line. I just so happened to come back from the state of Ohio, and I wore a Georgia shirt up there on Sunday, and I ran into a lot of great people from Ohio, and they just all told me how much they're looking forward to kicking our ass. So, you know what? It's one of those things where the Midwest, like you see these jokes all the time, where the Midwest people, even when they talk shit, they are the nicest humans on earth. They talk crap to you with a smile on their face. It's so funny. But yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to get fancy with the news layout there, and it didn't work.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
don't know what happened. I just kept
yeah.
talking.
It's all good. I'm glad you didn't stop. Sometimes it stops momentum here. Yeah,
We have
I
something
think
way more important to talk about, by the way.
we do. And real quick before we move on, I do want to talk about, I guess, the implications here. I mean, it seems pretty simple. Win, and it doesn't matter what happens in the SEC championship, even if you make it, like, you're in if you're Georgia. Now, if you lose and you somehow still get into the SEC championship and you lose that one, then maybe a conversation's had about your chances. But I mean, Georgia's pretty much 99% probability to get into the playoffs right now, I think. Maybe bordering on 100 at this point. I look at the 12 right now, and it is interesting when they talk about the cutoff spot potentially being that 10 seed rather than 12. Last year it was 12. Like, if you were at 12, you're the first team out. This year it could be 10, depending on how these conference championship games shake out. So, I mean, where do you stand? We haven't talked about it, and we may not get to talk about it until after everything's already said and done for. Do you want Georgia in this championship game? Do you not want them in this championship game? Like, where does Dane Kiley sit on that before we move into the tech preview? Like, what's your opinion on this? Because right now, the way it looks, there looks to be a path where Georgia gets a first round bye even without playing on championship weekend.
Yeah, I think that's more than likely what would happen. Actually, that's like 100% what would happen if Georgia didn't play. It's a double-edged sword, right? Like, you want to win the SEC championship. That's your number one goal when you start the season, is win your conference championship. So it sucks if you don't even have a chance to play for that. But then on the flip side of that, that is going to be a really tough game where you could get guys injured. And one injury can change the complexity of everything. Like, listen, I know fans have their feelings about Carson Beck, but losing your quarterback in the SEC championship game, who's not able to play in the first round of the playoffs, and we love Gunner, but the Gunner that's operating right now is not the same Gunner that played in that game. And I'm not saying that it would make the world of difference, but in my heart of hearts, I feel like it would, right? Like a healthy Carson Beck, I feel like Georgia wins that game. So my point is that, like, it's one of those things where it's tricky, but then more so, even more complicated than that, Georgia wouldn't play a game from this Friday until like December. Didn't you say like December 29th or something like that?
New Year's, yeah, New Year's, one of the New Year's. Well, that week.
So you're talking about a full month in a week, like 5 weeks without playing a football game. That's a great opportunity for guys to get healthy, but we didn't manage it well last year with only 1 week off. And, I think Kirby came out and said, and Saban as well, one of the things that you can do is you can actually practice too much. And I think they felt like they did too much, and they would scale it back this time. But I don't know, that would be I don't know that's ever happened before to a college football team, that length of time without playing a game.
The only time I can think about it, and I would have to go back and check the calendar, was 2017. Alabama didn't play in the SEC championship, and obviously it was the 14 then, and they ended up waiting from, I think, the first week of December. I guess it was 1 week short of what Georgia will have to sit through with the double bye week, because that was they played the Iron Bowl that week, and Auburn obviously made it to the SEC championship game. It was Auburn, Georgia. Georgia won. Alabama still made it in the top 4, but didn't end up playing a game till New Year's Eve. And that's what about the same length.
About the same
but
length.
Still, in a new format where none of the teams that had a bye week last year won, there's an argument to be had of like, hey, do you want the momentum? Do you want the extra game? Do you want the less time off? Is it more beneficial? Is it like baseball now where the team with the bye weeks in the playoffs, with the open week, are more likely to lose now? For Georgia right now, Dan, it certainly feels like there's a lot to be had and a lot to be gained by keeping the momentum rolling, because it seems like Georgia is a team that's ascending. Like 4 weeks ago, I don't know if you would say that Georgia's a team you don't want to see in the postseason, other than for the fact it's Kirby Smart. But you looked at the defense and you're like, man, this team's vulnerable. Now you turn the page 4 weeks later, and it's, hey, the defense is putting it together. They're finding answers, and the offense is continuing to play well. And there's the conversation of you don't want to face Georgia in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. And then, I know it's been said by a lot of different people. The way that Kirby Smart is wired, he wants to play and win every single week. Anytime there's a chance to play a game, he wants to play it and he wants to win. All I'm saying is the only downside to it is you could lose a key starter, just like we did last year with Carson Beck. Imagine if something happened to one of our players, a high ankle sprain, a broken hand, some crazy something, that's very easily could happen. But most people say, hey, listen, you could get killed walking out your front door every morning. But you still walk out.
Yep. It's the trade-off.
Look who shows up. You knew we were doing a show. Don't you come on here with your hurt feelings. Log into your computer. Get on, Pennsylvania boy.
I have my computer in the other tab trying to pull up some notes real quick. I was like, wait, did Kobe just hop in chat? Without further ado, Dan, should we turn the page?
We should turn the page.
Let's turn the page.
Kobe wants to jump in, then jump in.
It's clean, old-fashioned hate week, and I love it. Hate week as a whole, not even just Georgia specifically, just all of this week. I know it's the week of giving thanks, but there's a little bit of hate on the end of it. Georgia goes down to Atlanta this weekend in the Benz to face Georgia Tech. They sold their soul for some cash, some hard cash, to go play this weekend in Mercedes-Benz. Dan, this is the first time since 1912 that this game has been played off campus. That's crazy. I thought for sure they would have played a neutral site game at some point, maybe in the 90s or the 80s, just somewhere in there. But no, Patrick Garvin, friend of the show, said 1912 was the last time this game was played off campus. And I mean, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about Tech selling a home game in this circumstance? Like,
it's going to be a Georgia home game, so who gives a shit? I mean, they didn't want the optics of their stadium being all red again. So it is what it is. I don't have any feelings about it anyway. Georgia knows exactly what it feels like to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They do it a lot. They know how to prepare. They know how to get down there, and they know where to stay. I mean, they play in Atlanta a lot. Georgia Tech does not. So it's a new facility for them to get used to playing in, and they can't control the way that tickets are sold. So Georgia could easily turn it. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to be not 50-50, but I don't see a scenario in the world where this thing is 50-50. I'm thinking 70-30 more than likely. What do you think?
Yeah, I think 70-30, maybe 80-20. Highest. This man Kobe out here lying on our name. That's what I did when you were talking right there. I went and showed him the receipts in the chat. Man had an invite. Yeah, I good for them in terms of getting them some revenue. That's cool, but it was after last year's game being 8 overtimes in Sanford Stadium. I was excited to see what the Tech environment was going to look like. So a little bit of disappointment on that part, but somebody in the media, I can't complain about having to go cover a game at the Benz. That place is awesome. Catering is awesome. So it's going to be a cool experience all around, and we'll see if this is something that Tech does every year now in terms of selling it to Mercedes-Benz, or every other year they get this game at home. Dan, it seemed like, talking about comparing the past to the present, 4 weeks ago, I believe Tech was undefeated, had a better record than Georgia. They were higher. They were ranked pretty high, and it looked like we were destined for the highest ranked matchup between these two teams in quite a long time. It is still going to be a top 25 matchup thanks to the college football playoff rankings. Tech is ranked number 23, but Tech doesn't look. I put it in the title. I said scary. Obviously, they had an early season win over Clemson, and since then they really haven't done all too much in terms of impressiveness. You eked out a win versus Wake Forest out on the road. You beat Virginia Tech, who doesn't have a football, or who now has a football coach, by 15. You beat Duke. You did handle Syracuse, which is good. You should handle Syracuse, but there's the loss to NC State, 48-36. You beat Boston College by 2. Mind you, this is a terrible Boston College team. I believe they still have like 1 win, and then you lose last weekend to Pitt. Like, this team has gone from being one of the front runners to win the ACC to now they're out of the ACC championship picture after having a chance to clinch it just this weekend.
Well, it's one of those weird things where, like you said, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, October 25th, they beat Syracuse 41-16, right? And they got, after that week, they get up to number 4, right? That's where they were at. And then they have looked like absolute dog shit the last 3 weeks. And you have to wonder, NC State is not a good football team to lose that game by 12 points. And then Boston College is one of the worst teams in the country, and you win by 2 points. And then Pittsburgh, is a decent team, is a really decent team. But they're unranked. And they beat the absolute dog shit out of you. So, somebody, obviously it was kind of a joke, said that Brent Key is so consumed with Georgia that he forgot that he had 3 games to play. I don't know how much of that is true. Just kind of a funny thing. But you're right. This game had a chance to be really special. I mean, coming off the heels of that 8 overtime game last year, and like Kirby said, nobody gives a shit about an 8. He didn't say gives a shit, but he basically did.
I wish he did.
Yeah, he said no. Like he said, nobody on this team cares about that. Like that game has no relevance to this game. Everybody wants to win this game, and I get that. But if you would have had an undefeated Georgia Tech coming into this game with a chance to go to college football playoffs, all the things on the line, this game had a chance to be really special. In a special environment, right? It had a chance to be special. Now, if you go online and you look at all the smack talk, the Georgia Tech fans don't want to talk about football. They want to talk about how Georgia fans are not smart and that they don't succeed in life. That's their go-to now. And the reason I bring it up is so sad because this had a chance to be a football conversation, a football game. It's not to say Georgia Tech can't go win the football game. For sure they could. They're a talented group, well coached. But man, their fans suck, dude. Like have a football conversation. It's like you parking people, and you're gonna be waiting, serving tables at TCY whatever, TGI Fridays. Like you're so dumb. It's like, let's talk about football. But they can't talk about football because their team is playing like trash right now, and they know it. And the writing is on the wall. The Georgia might come out and absolutely roll daddy on Friday. They should, but that doesn't mean they will.
Do you feel better or worse about this matchup following the Tech
Worse.
loss? Worse.
I do, because it's one of the most inexplicable things I've ever seen. Like Georgia Tech was playing really good football, and they don't have significant injuries unless somehow like Haynes King is actually injured and they're just not telling anybody. They have weapons. Their defense hasn't been overly good at any point this season. I believe somebody asked a question in the press conference. Were you at the press conference on Monday?
I was.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody asked Kirby a question about had he had a chance to watch the explosive plays against Georgia Tech's defense. First, he said he didn't understand the question, which he damn well did know the freaking question. I mean, it was I understood what the guy. Everybody knew what he was asking, but Kirby wanted to be a dick about it. And then he's like, well, I've only watched their defense. I haven't watched their offense or whatever. Or I've only watched their offense, not their defense. Well, like, dude, you're the head coach. You watch everything. Like, I know you like that. There's no way on earth Kirby hasn't, watched that. But the point of the question was legitimate. Do you feel like you can attack this defense with explosive plays because they've given up a lot of them? And I feel like that's a perfectly fair question. Maybe the way I worded it was better than what he did. And you know what, Harrison, you are like to kind of go behind the curtain a little bit and see the Wizard of Oz. Harrison goes to all these press conferences, and he said one of the biggest things, and you can speak on this, Harrison, because you've been in all the buildings, is when you ask Kirby a question, you better word it correctly. Because if you don't word it correctly, he'll attack the one thing that you did wrong. I think it was a fair question, probably not worded right. But Harrison, tell the folks the anxiety of asking Kirby a question, especially when he's surly.
Oh, especially when my theory is when he hits you with the "I don't understand your question" is that it's a good question and he wants you to say it again. That way you can be more prone to misword it. And then boom, you give him an out. You give him a little out. You mischaracterize something, you say something wrong, and boom, it's heaven for him. Like he gets his easy way out of it, doesn't have to answer the question. I think Monday, the last 3 weeks, Dan, have all been rough. The last 3 Monday press conferences, I don't feel like he's been particularly in a good mood. And Monday, he was short. He didn't really have time. You could tell the short week. He just had a little sense of urgency. And Roddy titled it, Kirby doesn't have time for stupid questions. Or no, it was Kirby's dialed in or he doesn't have time for stupid questions. And it's probably a little bit of both. Although I didn't think there was really any dumb questions in that press conference on Monday. Sometimes there are, but I didn't feel so on Monday. Talking about that defense, Georgia Tech's defense, I wanted to look this up, Dan. They've given up, in terms of 20-plus yard plays from scrimmage, in terms of those given up, they rank 121st in plays of 20 yards or more from scrimmage. So pass or run, 30-yard plays, they rank 131st in those. Yeah. So they've given up 12 plays of 30 yards or more, and they've given up 59 or 32 of 20 yards or more. So fair question. Really good question. That's the first time I looked at those statistics, because the other statistics that I was looking at, Dan, on the defensive side, is they rank 96th in rushing defense. They're giving up 167.82 yards per game, and they rank 105th in passing defense. Dan, the way I see this game, and this used to be so simple. I think we had 2 iterations of this show previewing Georgia Tech matchups prior to the last year, where this game felt cut and dry. Georgia's going to win. Georgia's going to roll. Not really going to be much of a contest. And while I feel more confident that Georgia's going to look good on Saturday, I still don't think this is Georgia Tech from 2018.
No.
I don't think this is, Georgia rolling for 4 quarters. I think this unfolds similar to the Texas game. I think this is a close game for 3 quarters, maybe 1 score going into the 4th, and then Georgia rolls in the 4th. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
I see it one of 2 ways. Either this game's going to come down to one of the last plays, or Georgia blows their doors off. Georgia's defense is starting to figure things out. Georgia Tech's entire offense is predicated on the success that Haynes King can and can't have, or whatever. He loves to use his legs. That man, I don't really know how to describe it, because for a guy who is that much of the offense, it's almost inexplicable how he can stay healthy and not miss games. Like, I don't know how he stays healthy the way he plays. He plays with a reckless abandon, and I mean that in a good way, with his body. The only thing that I would say is the way Georgia can strike you and the way that they team tackle and flow to the football, it may not be the recipe for success. However, we have a proof of concept last year with Georgia Tech where he played that way the entire game, and he lasted. So the guy is incredibly durable, and that's something that is just inexplicable. But I know that somebody asked Kirby to compare the 2 of them in the press conference, and he gave a bullshit answer. But I feel like Gunnar Stockton is the type of quarterback that Kirby Smart absolutely loves. Like, I believe that. In my heart of hearts, I believe that Kirby Smart loves Gunnar Stockton, the way he plays, the way he competes. Using the transitive property, you would think that he would love the way that Haynes King plays, because he plays very similar. Like, it's like they could both throw the football, but they use their legs a lot, and they're just tough sons of bitches. You know what I'm talking about? They are tough kids, both of them. Their style of play is very similar, in my opinion. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can show me something that says that they're not the same. But I think that, the way that they inspire. And I think that was the question that they were basically trying to get down to, is how their nitty-gritty and their offense feeds off of their energy. And I think both teams feed heavily off the energy that the quarterback provides. And I think both teams would lay in oncoming traffic to prevent their quarterback from getting hurt. Because I think, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but one of the things I always try to discuss with my son is that if you're going to be a quarterback of a team, a leader of men, they have to want to play for you. They have to want to do things for and with you. And I think Gunnar brings out the best in this offense, because I truly believe every single person in that huddle cares about him, because I truly believe that he cares about them. And I think at Georgia Tech is the exact same situation with Haynes King. I think those kids believe in him with every ounce of their being, and they go as he goes. So I think the offenses are very similar in that way, where that quarterback is the key to everything. And I know you could probably say that about a lot of teams, but these 2 teams in particular, I don't think that there's a more of a quarterback reliant team than either one of those teams. I mean, I know I said a lot and it kind of went in different directions. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Like, does it make sense at all?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I felt like I kind of lost it there, but
no,
I hope the point was made.
You did make your point, and I'm going to add to your point. Look, we learned all we need to know about Haynes King last year, and he played pretty well the year before. They only lost to Georgia by, I think, 8 the year before. No, it was a 7-point game. It was a 1-score game in 2023. Now, granted, there was an interception on the Georgia Tech goal line that would have put Georgia up 2 scores, and they ended up going down and scoring to make it a 1-score game. But there's a story, Dan, that came out just a couple weeks ago, and everything you talked about with Haynes King pretty much confirmed with this one story. And I don't know if you've seen it, so that's why I'm going to bring it up. That's why I'm sharing my screen here in a minute to show you it. But this headline: after the Georgia game, he revealed, I guess in an interview, he was pissing blood after that game.
Oh, that's not comfortable.
Couldn't throw a football more than a few feet without pain radiating his arm 4 days before the contest against Georgia.
That was last year.
That was last year. That's all you need to know.
Just a gamer, bro.
And Dan, they had over 500 yards of offense in that game. Over 500 yards is the most total yards a Kirby Smart defense has given up in a single game. 563. Haynes King accounted for 413 of them with 5 touchdowns.
That's just insane.
I mean, that's all we need to know. And the effect that you talk about with quarterbacks putting their bodies on the line and those teammates putting their bodies on the line, you see the effect. You saw the effect on Georgia in the SEC championship game. One of the first plays Gunner made off the bench, he ran over the corner on that sideline. And he gets up and he starts jawing at him. And Georgia's entire sideline just jumps, gets after it, you know? That's what makes you like, you talk about those guys wanting to go laying oncoming traffic for them. I think both these quarterbacks would go laying oncoming traffic for their teams.
Yeah, listen, the simplest you could make football is that dudes respect dudes, right? I mean, like,
if your quarterback is a football player's favorite football player, you got a good quarterback.
God, my teams love it when their quarterback is a badass, like just a tough son of a gun, and that just radiates through the locker room. And I think that's the one thing that these teams have in common. Now, defensively, I think that's where you draw the line. I think both offenses are capable. Both offenses are going to keep their team in the game. But I think the biggest divide in this football game this particular year is that Georgia's defense, although it looked bad at times. I mean, I don't think that's an overstatement, right? I think that's a fair criticism that there have been times this year where Georgia's defense looked bad. But they're starting to play really, really well, and they're rounding in the shape, and it's the perfect time. And, like I think we talked about it last week where a lot of teams were like here and now they're here, and maybe even some of them are dipping. But like Georgia kind of like was here, maybe dipped a little bit early, and then now they're shooting straight up. And I think their defense is really starting to play good football. One of the things that never gets mentioned is Georgia's special teams. Georgia's special teams has been really good this year, with an exception of maybe kicking the ball out of bounds a couple times, which is inexplicable to me. You have a kicker that can kick it out of the back of the end zone. Why even make the kickoff part of the game? Just kick the ball out of the end zone. It doesn't make sense to me. And then we have, in my mind, we have the best punter in the country who didn't necessarily have the best game of his life against Texas, but or was it Florida? Was it Florida?
It was Texas.
Yeah, Texas. Didn't have the best game. But dude, he's still the best punter in the country, and like I think even Kirby said after, he's gonna be fine. I promise he'll be fine. Nobody is losing faith in him. Return game has been pretty decent, with Zach Branch back there. Dude, he's
You're
one block
for
away.
One to pop. Yeah,
he's one block away, dude. He's got you just feel like it's coming at some point. Is it still Isaiah McKenzie? No, it's not. It was somebody more recent than Isaiah McKenzie, right? Punt return for a touchdown. We talked about this, and you found the answer last time. I thought it was somebody more recent.
I'm guessing it was Mekhi Muse. If it's recent,
yes, it was Muse. Yeah, but anyway, you just feel like that's going to happen
at some point. And I'm kind of shocked he hasn't had a kickoff return for touchdowns because it's been a little bit since Georgia had a kickoff return for touchdown.
Yeah.
There's several times. I mean, in the last few games, it feels like there's a few times where you're like, ooh, he might get there, but just hasn't broke that way. Maybe, Dan, that's where if you're looking for a sign that January Georgia's back, maybe it's a kickoff return for a touchdown. Maybe that's when it pops. One of those playoff games, it just pops, and that's when Georgia's back. It's kind of like the block field goals. Georgia's back when they're blocking field goals.
And that the other thing too is that I know that I was reading through some comments and stuff like that. Some people were a little bit uninspired by the performance against Charlotte. It's like, it's freaking Charlotte, dude. What did you expect? And
let's remind them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut in here. let's remind. I think it's important to remind people what Georgia looked like the week before playing Tech last year. They had, I think they needed 50. They needed 50 some points to run away from UMass last year. You gave up. I'm trying to pull up the stats now because it was an ungodly amount of rushing yards that week. Georgia won 59-21 on senior night on senior day at home versus UMass. UMass finished with 350 total yards of offense, 226 on the ground. You didn't see that on Saturday.
No, they knew that they had a team overmatched, and Kirby played everything very tight to the vest, and he wasn't out here trying to get anybody hurt. We didn't see anything creative or anything like that. It was extremely vanilla. It almost looked like a preseason game. And then they had a chance to play a lot of players. A lot of guys got an opportunity to play. They were not concerned with the final score. Like that, it just, to me, it never seemed from kickoff to finish when I watched the game back, at any point they were concerned about how many points they scored. They shut it down in the second half, Harrison. I mean, they put that bitch in neutral. And they did not care. I mean, it was just they knew that Charlotte was not going to move the ball. And then the one time that they did, they got the interception in the end zone, which was, I don't mean to be rude to the kid, but that was just a horrible throw in the end zone off 1 foot rolling to the sidelines. However, it was just one of those games. But Georgia Tech has Georgia's attention. They do. And anytime that Georgia's inspired to play a football game, they end up playing well. Like going into the Texas game, people were like, "Oh, what?" Like, no, Georgia was ready to go, and scoring the opening drive the way that they did, holding Sark's script to 3 points. I mean, I'm just excited to watch the game, man. I have a feeling, just this gut feeling, that we're going to see a really good Georgia team on Friday. I think they have their attention. It's a big stage. I think part of it is they know they may not play a football game for a long time. And I think we're going to get the very best version of it. Now, I know that something that you'll want to talk about is the Buster Faulkner factor. So give your little mini rant on Buster Faulkner.
I've been sitting on it for a little bit, and I wrote an article about him today, which I assume Dan probably saw, or at least saw that I posted. So I assume that's how he knew that it was coming. But he had an offense last year that was outside the top 60 in scoring last year. They were like 61st last year, and they put up, like I said, the most total yards Georgia defense has ever had hung up on them. Put up 42 points. Yes, it was in 8 overtimes. But if it wasn't for the dumb overtime rules of college football, this easily could have been a 70-70 ball game like LSU Texas A&M was that year if it wasn't for the 2-point conversions. Like, they could have put up mass amount of points, but they didn't. And this year they've seen a jump, Dan. Like, their defense is nothing to write home about at all. And that's where in this game I feel it's going to follow the trend of the Georgia-Texas game. I think this is going to be a slow game in terms of both these teams are going to be trying to grind it out a little bit. They're going to want to run the football. They're going to lean on the run. And I'm confident Georgia's going to be able to run the football on Tech. I feel like Georgia should be able to stop Tech's run game, but the quarterback run game, like Georgia's run defense, is much better, vastly better than it was last year. As shown in the rankings, like Georgia's number 5 in rushing defense. They're allowing 87 yards per game on the run. Like, that's elite Georgia standard run defense. And they're running the ball well to the standard. But they have yet to face a quarterback or an offense that has the design run packages that Georgia Tech does. I mean, this guy is essentially a damn fullback. I mean, he just rams his head into the wall. It does not matter. I mean, he did it last year. Bloody pee and all. This guy runs through the brick wall. It does not matter. They're number 20 scoring defense. They're number 17 in rushing defense. And they're number 5 in total offense. They're averaging 35.3 points per game and over 400 yards of total offense per game. And they do it with a quarterback that has rushed for 883 yards and 15 touchdowns compared to over 2,000 yards and 12 touchdowns through the air. Like, this guy's playing at a really, really high level. and they're doing it in spades because they have a coordinator that is, I I talked to I've talked to a friend of the show, Brent Rollins, about this matchup, and Dan, we had him on the show back in July. You talk about Buster Faulkner with that guy, and dude, that guy sounds like a wizard in terms of the way he creates matchups versus Georgia and finds little advantages versus this team. What looks like window dressing is not window dressing. It's, hey, I'm setting you up for this. Like, hey, I'm bringing that receiver on a little jet motion, and hey, Haynes may pull the ball this first time, but I promise you, here in a minute, Haynes is going to pull the ball and throw it to him in the flat. Like, everything's a setup. This is high praise. It's McVay Shanahan levels of setup in terms of that guy, and it's crazy to see. It's crazy to me how we're this early into the coaching carousel, and I haven't seen this guy on any head coaching hot boards because this guy's routed Georgia up 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and like if you're Georgia Tech and you're looking at Georgia's game film, trying to figure out how to attack them or how they're going to probably play you, like out of all the ways that we've played defense this year, and the one thing that is very dangerous is trying to predict exactly what Kirby and his staff defensively are going to do because they're so good at creating individual game plans. And I think that's something that they do probably better than anybody in football right now, is they have a game plan specific for every team. But in my mind, I think the setup that they're going to run with is probably what they did against Texas, because you had a quarterback in Arch Manning. Now, granted, he hasn't produced the same way that Haynes King has, but you have a quarterback in Arch Manning, and we did touch about this a little bit in our game leading up to Texas. He's capable of running the football, and he's tough when he has it. He's not very easy to get on the ground. So I was wondering if that's the way that they're going to attack it, because with the way that they try to attack Ole Miss, they had a quarterback who could run, but he didn't really run that much. He stayed in the pocket for the most part, and I think that was because they didn't want to expose him. Not that he can't run. No, that's not what I mean, but they didn't want to expose him to injury, and they kept him in the pocket, and he did a great job. But that's why those guys get paid a lot of money, and I don't, is because they know what they're looking for. Buster Faulkner is going to go through that film, and he's going to know what he's looking for, and he's going to try to find ways to attack it. And then Georgia is going to go back through their offensive game film and try to figure out ways to slow this thing down. We always come in here and give score predictions and stuff like that, and a lot of times we feel pretty confident, but I don't know what the final score is going to be. I have no idea. Like, I couldn't give you a score because I don't know. But like in my mind, I feel like Georgia Tech's going to put points on the board, and I don't. And maybe they don't. I mean, maybe somehow you shut them down. But to me, it feels like this Georgia Tech team is going to score points. So this offense is going to have Georgia's offense is going to have to be really productive, I think, to make this a game that we're comfortable with in the fourth quarter. Your take on that?
And I'm with, and I have to give a score prediction. Thursday night when we release our score prediction. Well, I guess it won't be Thursday night. We'll release that Thursday morning. So I guess tomorrow. But Dan, I said this on Sunday, and I think this is where my prediction stands. I have this as a 7-point game going into the fourth quarter, but I have Georgia winning by 17 in the end. I think you have a 10, maybe at least 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter, and it's a 17-point Georgia win. And the spread, last I checked, let's see.
14, right?
Was it 14? Damn it, ESPN, why you let me down right now? It is 13.5 on ESPN Bet. So I'm taking Georgia to cover, which Georgia versus the spread this year is pretty awful. I don't know how the exact record, but it's pretty awful. But my sense on this game, Dan, is Georgia pulls away in the fourth, but it's a really good football game. And if it's a one-score game going into the fourth, I don't know if I can't put my finger on whether or not it's a good game and you're not going to be as upset with how things are, or it's a good game but you're going to be disappointed. Like I don't think this is a high scoring in the 40s game. I think this is Georgia somewhere in the 30s and Tech ends up in the teens. is the kind of way I see it. And I just think it's kind of going to be slow out the gate just because both teams are going to try and establish the run early. And that's really the question for me, Dan. Like, I think Georgia can get points on this team, on this defense. The question for me is, how does Georgia respond to stopping a less traditional run game? Because they have not played a run game like this all year. And it's an interesting thing to see because Haynes King has rushed for 60 or more or 50 or more yards in every game but one. And the one game was Temple. He rushed for 15 yards and 8 carries. They won 45-24. And I don't know if he got hurt that game or what, but he was the only quarterback that played. But apparently they didn't need him to run that game. And that's the least amount of rushing yards he finished the game with this season. So every other team they've played, he's found the way to run the ball.
I don't like in my mind. I have this game something like 30, like 38-24, like in that range. Like
covering the spread.
Well, originally I was gonna say 35, but then it dawned on me, like what Kobe always says,
they're gonna get a field goal.
They're gonna get a field goal. So, I don't know, man. I'm excited for this football game because might be the last game we have for a really, really long time, and that's gonna suck. This is one of the things that I always talk about at the beginning of the season is we wish these games away so fast, and then here you are at the end of the season, and we're literally, the last guaranteed game that we have is Friday, and I mean, obviously we'll probably play another one, but you could only have one more game after that, and then you have that long break until whatever. But I'm excited for the football game. I think Georgia Tech is a good football team that just hasn't been playing well, which makes me a little bit nervous because I think that they're going to come out and play extremely hard. Oh man,
isn't it nice though? It's hate week, and there's a game where you're unsure about, specifically this matchup, because when's the last time before the last 2 years where you come into a Georgia Tech game and you're like, oh, Georgia could lose this?
It's been a while. I mean,
probably the end of the Rick years. You're probably the last time you're probably stressing about the Georgia Tech game.
And Kirby's never lost to Tech, right?
No, he has. 2016, I think, is the only time. And it's the last time.
First year?
Yeah, first year. I don't remember much about that game. I just remember they lost.
I think I blocked that one out of my memory.
So I'm sure, I don't know if that was a fluky one or what was it, but they lost that game. I do remember that. They lost to Florida, Ole Miss, and they lost to 2 others that year. Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Did they lose to Auburn? I think they beat Auburn that year. I forget the other 2 losses in that season. Someone, maybe if anyone's in the comments, Kobe, if you're still here, if you're still with us, that you were on the team, I believe, at that point, or maybe you were a freshman 17. Kobe should know either way. But without further ado, Dan, before we wrap it up, does Georgia play in the SEC championship next weekend? In essence, I'm asking you, does Auburn upset Bama, or does Texas beat Texas A&M?
There's a chance that could happen, but I'm going to say it doesn't happen. I think chalk holds, and Georgia has to wait to play in the first round bye. I think that's what's going to end up happening. Okay, well, let's rephrase the question. Of the 2 teams that need to lose, which one is more likely to lose, in your opinion? I think it's Texas A&M. I think they're the one that's more likely to lose.
See, I agree with you, but I don't know.
I mean, can Sark dial one up? Can he dial one up?
I can see, and the Texas A&M game is, I think Texas is going to have to score 30 to win.
So there was a conspiracy theory out there that Texas A&M loses on purpose because they know they're in the playoff and they won't have to play that game. And then that way Georgia has to beat Alabama and one of them will be out of the way.
Second question. If Georgia has to play Alabama, hypothetically.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And the game's not in Atlanta, is anywhere but Atlanta, do you still come on the show? I don't know. Is Is it Georgia just can't play Alabama anywhere in the state of Georgia? Or if they play a neutral site, it needs to be in Indianapolis for them to win?
Oh, man. I
Heck,
fucking hate
if
Alabama.
Georgia beats Alabama in the Benz or anywhere in the state of Georgia or any time in the regular season, maybe we'll do the one chip challenge on this show. Maybe.
No,
But
Dan will
until
not
then.
do that shit.
Anyways, yeah, can Sark dial one up? One of them, Dan, college football this year and even last year, it's just been chaos. And I feel like chaos is going to happen because when you think you're safe from chaos, chaos erupts. And as everyone's favorite show, Peter Baylor says, chaos is a ladder. And we haven't reached the top of the ladder. We'll see you next week. Actually, no, we will see you. Dan and Kobe might be here on Sunday. I may not be available on Sunday. That is to be determined. I'll leave that up to the guys, though. Anyways, that's going to be it for the Top Dog Talk podcast, episode whatever, Georgia Tech preview. I'm excited. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And on that note, Dan, favorite Thanksgiving food? Go.
Shit, I don't know. It's all
put
good.
him on the spot.
Dude, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. It's by far my favorite holiday. You get tons of food and you get to watch football all day long with your family. It's by far my absolute favorite holiday. It's better than Christmas. I just love Thanksgiving. We actually get to do it at my house this year. Doing a honey baked ham, and I'm smoking a turkey. I've got
Damn, he's doing both.
Yeah, we're doing the whole thing, bro. That's how we roll. Like it's this food up in this thing.
Stuffing or dressing?
Dude, listen, I know I'm going to catch straight hell for this. Stovetop stuffing out of the box is my absolute favorite.
See, I got told earlier in the week, since we're in the South, is dressing, but I'm like, I know it is stuffing.
Yeah, and then like scalloped potatoes are so freaking good. That's one of my favorites too.
I think my favorite. Look, here, if I have my choice, my Thanksgiving plate. Obviously, you get your choice of turkey or ham, whatever the host is having, serving.
Or both.
You got to go sweet potatoes. Candied sweet potato souffle. Give it to me. All right. Whatever green bean casserole you got going on. Sometimes you do green bean casserole. Load me up.
We'll have both of those.
Yeah. Stuffing or dressing, whatever. Load me up. And then I'm here. I saw some people hating on cranberry. If you're doing like a cranberry, whatever, load me up. Cranberry's awesome. So that's my and obviously can't forget it, the macaroni. If there's macaroni and cheese, I'm in there like swimwear.
All right, so everything you mentioned we have, and then Sister Schubert rolls, which are my favorite.
Ooh, how did I forget about the bread? Damn. All right, well, that's gonna wrap it up. Happy Thanksgiving, folks. We'll see you on Sunday at I guess 8:30 here for the Top Talk podcast, fresh off clean old fashioned hate. We both have Georgia winning, and I guess we both have Georgia covering. Oddly enough, so maybe fade them not to cover. I don't know. Our records haven't been great this year. We'll see you next week or Sunday.
We'll be here at some point. Go Dogs. Happy Thanksgiving.